being not okay is okay. And you guys want to help others who may be in a situation.
Yeah, we don't ever want anybody else to go through this.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Taking Stock with Illinois Farm Bureau. I'm Rita Frazier, and we're in studio with two very special ladies. Just meeting both of you, and I already feel very connected. Jill Riemann and Julie Michaels, you guys are the Stuenkel Sisters.
Yes.
Thank you for coming today, and we're going to talk about farmer wellness and mental health. We have talked so much about in the farming community about the dangers of farming as an occupation. It's very dangerous, and we're very, for many years, we've talked about farm safety. We also know that it's a very stressful occupation, and recent figures show us that mental health and farmer suicide rates have increased. And you both lost a very important member of your family and treasure to suicide. You tell me very, very recently, really 3 years ago. So take us back, whichever one of you guys wants to start the conversation. Let's talk about growing up on the farm and the family dynamic. Jill, you want to start?
Can try.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, it was the two of us and our brother Tim, our parents. We were like the fifth generation of the Stuenkel family being on the farm. So, I thought it was an amazing way to grow up. And you become, like we said, you're not just a family, but like these are your best friends, your siblings, because you don't have neighbors. This is like you're your best friends from birth. And we were really a team. It took the whole family to keep the business going. So I'd say we were definitely all just very close, and we really genuinely liked spending time together. That continued into adulthood. We would take family trips together, and if you want to add.
Yeah, I was going to say the team aspect. Most children don't have the opportunity to see their dad at work every day. So we realized the hard work and planning that went into providing us with clothes and food, and it made you want to be a part of it and help out. So yeah, we were very close. We worked together. We played together. We talked. My mom was probably the one that encouraged the communication. But there wasn't anything that we wouldn't have tried to do to help our dad. So yeah, we were very all hands in on it,
And Tim he was the youngest, but he was the only boy. So he definitely took on I think he had a talent for it and an interest. So, he just was always the one there with our dad, day in, day out, learning, doing. So.
And he did. He soaked it all up from little on. So.
And did you guys already know or always know that he would be the one to be the farmer to carry on? Or
I think that was kind of a precarious situation because my dad didn't own the farm outright. And, there was always all these owners.
And owned by the family.
Yeah,
it was
right.
Like 5, 6 siblings that were involved with it. So I think my mom was like, Tim, if this is what you want to do, great, but you don't have to. I think she understood especially how tough it was. You're self-employed and just how many things you cannot control in farming, how difficult it is. I think she kind of wanted something almost better or easier, but he loved it. I genuinely think.
Yeah. And he did go to U of I and got his degree in ag mech, and then he went on to get his MBA from Northern. And I think he saw the value of having a job that gives you insurance and benefits. So, yeah. But he used to plant the living room floor, and we couldn't walk in there after he put the crops in. So he was all in from very little on. Yes, it was his love.
how did you deal, maybe community and faith, and talk about that as a family?
Yeah, I'd say definitely faith was huge. We all grew up, it was the church and school where our great-great grandparents had gone, and, they were in the cemetery, and you grew up around this. And definitely, involved with the church. Dad helped out with repairs at the church. Mom was a room mom. And yeah, faith, well, we said, like we're talking today, you can't be a farmer and not have faith, right? Because there's so many things you can't control, and you're putting all this money into it and all these inputs and the seeds, and you're just praying it works out for that year.
Yeah, so faith was definitely a huge thing, and it certainly carried us through a lot of the loss that we've had personally with both our parents and then our brother leaving us at too early at ages. So yeah, faith was huge.
Yeah, we wouldn't have gone through it without.
No. Yeah, it was an important part of our daily life, that's for sure.
So he was a young farmer. How would you describe him, as a kid, and how do you describe Tim?
Okay, well, I always said he is the smartest and funniest person I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was witty, stubborn, playful, kind of independent, kind of quiet on his own. But then again, he could be the life of the party, right? He could turn it on. Very, very responsible and driven, very hard worker, wanted to do the best at everything that he did.
Mm-hmm. But he was the fun uncle. He was Uncle Stuenkel. And so, it was always, you're like, oh, he might get the kids in trouble, but they're going to have a great time. I mean, I always say, like, for holidays, he would come and, like, go to the thrift store. And, like, one year he came down as a cousin Eddie from the Christmas Vacation, he got the white leather shoes. He would just show up and he would just start laughing the moment he walked in.
He wore the Dickie for one Christmas from Christmas Vacation.
And just silly things like that. He went out of his way to just make people laugh. Yeah, he was very creative and intelligent. Right. I mean, worked hard, played hard, but
that's kind of like the Christmas present I got every year because I hated tomato soup. He took like a big barrel from work and he made it a giant can of tomato soup. And every year he would somehow give me something. He like stringed up a can of soup in a bunch of boxes so I couldn't be. He was just like really just funny and goofy. And he put, so that was like our little joke. So yeah, he was fun. Yeah, we miss him a lot. Yeah, that's for sure.
Right. We always just miss having that person to talk to.
Well, it was you and I.
Yeah.
And then Mom and Dad, it was surprise,
baby, yeah.
And I think he was like our one common goal. Like, we both loved him so much.
Because we were sisters and girls, so you would be like, you fight my clothes.
But he was our baby that we just loved.
And he was the brother, though, that would pick on us, and
I have
tease if you have siblings, yes.
Yeah. So we had to relearn our relationship after he was gone.
True. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a void. And there always will be, but I think we love to still talk about him, and we want our children, to know, and to know that what he did isn't right, but that he was a good person. Mm-hmm. And there's so many things to love and respect about him. And that's a hard thing to balance sometimes.
Yeah, and let's talk about why you are here, because we're so grateful that you're talking with us and sharing his story, because back to, the stigma that still exists. We've made a lot of strides. We've made progress in talking about this in the ag community, but being not okay is okay. And you guys want to help others who may be in a situation.
Yeah, we don't ever want anybody else to go through this.
Right. It's hard on the people left behind, and you think about the years of suffering that we didn't know he was going through this. And it's like, you don't want anyone to go through that kind of pain and feel so alone and isolated and like they have no other choices.
Yeah. Well, and like we were saying in the car, you have to remember that mental illness, we were talking about this, like, it's just like any other disease. It's like having cancer, it's like breaking your leg. And we were saying, what do you do when you're sick? You go to a doctor. But what is it with mental health? People just, it's like you just don't address it. I'm going to handle it. I'm going to take care of it. But you can't on your own. You need help. And we need to change that way of thinking, and not, especially for men. And again, farmers are very isolated. You don't, maybe have people to talk to. And I think because being a farmer, you're very self-sufficient and independent. You don't rely on people. Even if you need help, you're too proud to let someone help you. You're going to do it yourself. So, it needs to be looked at just like any other illness. You need help. You're not going to be able to do this on your own. And maybe you don't want to burden your family or whatever. Well, then you need to see somebody else. You do. Because your family needs you here. They need you better. And they want you to be better.
And no matter what you're afraid, if you're afraid of losing the farm, if you're afraid of failing, like, these people are going to love you. That doesn't matter. They just want you, and they want you to be happy and healthy.
Do you think that that's where he was? Do you think that he was afraid of losing the farm?
It was complicated. I think he was struggling with being way too busy at his other position, needing help that he didn't have. He was overwhelmed. Just being so tired that he didn't have the love to put in like he used to. He was just overwhelmed with responsibilities. And farming is such a gamble anyhow. So you're pouring all this money, and is it going to rain? Is it going to be warm? Is it going to, we're going to get a hailstorm? Yeah, equipment. So it's very stressful on top, just alone, but then on top of his other job. So
he was working full time at an office job, and then it would take vacation days from that to go to the farm and take care of things and drive an hour every time. And so when you have two stressful jobs, and he was single, so he didn't have someone to talk to. It was just shortly after COVID that it happened, and it was, spring. Spring is such a busy, stressful time for farmers, and I think it was just, he felt he just couldn't do it.
And it's like I said, with the weather, it's go time. You got to go. You got to get it in there. You can't mess around. You can't say, I'll do it next weekend. It's now, because next weekend it's going to be raining and you can't get it in. And being the fifth generation, there's a huge responsibility, pride. It's not just a farm. That's your family. That's your name. That's your heritage. I mean, that's why we named it what we did,
Yeah. Yeah. It was the Stuenkel legacy is what,
farm. We became incorporated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So an LLC.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is, and all that is important. We're very proud of it, but we tried to also express that you are so much more than that.
Yeah.
Right. That's still just a place and a thing, and you're a human being and worth so much more.
But he did carry the weight of that responsibility. I have no doubt.
And Dad passed away 2014, and I think that was so hard because suddenly he didn't have that person to talk to, and he felt like he wanted to continue it for our dad.
Right, because he would always farm with our dad. He was this, so he was always a part of the operation, but now he was all alone. And then he got stuck with me as the helper who wasn't as experienced and had a lot to learn. And, he knew the right way to do things, and I learned. But, it was a lot. Yeah. And Dad was gone very quickly.
Yeah.
Pancreatic cancer. He was gone within 10 days of actually getting the diagnosis. So, I mean, he was shoveling grain 2 weeks before he passed away, because you keep going. That's what you do. Right. So, it was a lot.
Since you mentioned your dad, before we started recording today, I asked about your parents, and you said both of your parents are passed, and that you feel also had a big part to play in Tim's life.
Yeah. I mean, Tim had just graduated from U of I, and 6 months later, our mom passed. She was only 54, so she was very young. And I think that was certainly very hard for him. He was the youngest, so he had to face all these difficulties at the youngest age out of all of us. So.
And then I think, too, partly because of that, I mean, him and Dad were close anyhow, but then they were very close. Like, they were each other's person that they talked to. And maybe they didn't talk about emotional things, but just the talking, having that bond. And then when we lost Dad, then there's, all these huge responsibilities. And like I was saying to Jill, I really feel bad because Tim was the executor of our dad's estate. I didn't understand the strain that is until I was Tim's executor. And it's very hard to heal when you have about a good year of taking care of all the financial issues. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot, and you just can't heal when you're doing all that. So now you have a farm. We have 2 houses to take care of. We're trying to buy a property. He's working a job. He's coming down. You know, it was overwhelming. I have no doubt. I don't know how he did it all. And he was so precise and exact and everything with records. So I don't know when he slept. So, yeah.
And I will say, even in his passing, man, he was organized. He had a whole binder, all the accounts listed. He left a note for us. He typed up on his laptop, which we had to kind of laugh because the joke was, but he had such bad handwriting. Like, you could never read his writing.
He should have been a doctor. Yeah.
Like, thank goodness he knew to type it. And, you know, he left that. He left his Bible on his desk. All of this prepared to help us. Like, this was not a spur of the moment.
No.
You know, and in his note, he said, "I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I love you guys, but I've been depressed and dealing with this for like 8 years." And it was so
he was just tired.
And he's like, I'd have good days, and then I'd have days where I just wanted to curl up in bed and just not deal with it, and he couldn't figure a way out of the pain. And of course, we are like, oh, why didn't you just tell us all this? You know, it's like you read this, you're like, this is what we needed to know, but why? Why did you do it now after the fact? Like,
well,
it would have helped.
And like we said, you know, getting professional help. He had services at work he could have accessed, and he didn't. We're like, you're a smart guy. Like,
Right.
It's just something you think you're going to figure out on your own. I'm going to get out of this slump, you know?
Yeah.
And then it gets to a point where you're so tired, it seems like way too much work to get out of that hole, right? So you just don't have the energy. So it's not something you can leave fester. You need to address it sooner than later.
So you guys have painted the picture of the day he passed. You mentioned that. So we're recording here on the 14th day of May. You mentioned the kind of the heat of the planting season. So take us back.
And in hindsight, I think, of course, we look back and we're like, how did we not see this? How did we not know? Because it was like he was on top of things. And so you would go by the farm, you're like, oh, he's not out yet. Usually, you know, he was the one who would get out the power washer, who would clean off all the tractors, do, you know, very precise, very detailed. And so it was unusual. But we're like, well, maybe he doesn't want to farm. Maybe he's right. And we're like, that's okay.
Yeah. And we would talk to him about that at length. We're like, you don't have to do this. We can rent the ground. Let somebody while you figure out what you want to do. And actually, I had several seed guys, you know, who I also knew contact me and they're like, hey, Tim hasn't gotten back to me. And I was like, well, I think he's just really, work was like crazier than ever. So, you know, I'd text him and like, hey, so-and-so contacted me. They're just worried about you. And he'd just shrug it off like, yeah, I know I need to get on that. I'll give him a call. You know, and I was like, do you want to do this? You don't have to do this.
She's the oldest. She's supposed to do that to you.
I'm sorry.
I'm joking.
Yeah. So in hindsight, yeah.
Like, because he wouldn't respond to a text maybe right away, but we knew he was busy. And like you're saying, yeah, this is that time of year. Like, okay, we would check in, but he'd always be like, I'm fine. Don't worry about it.
We were like, he'd always say we were the crazy sisters. Like, oh my God, I'm fine. Why are you worried? You know? So I think in hindsight, I wish I hadn't backed off. The number one thing I would say that people should do if they're worried about someone, and I regret this so much, don't text them, don't call them, go to them and confront them and be with them. Yeah, I regret that very much.
And I think that the things we've also learned, like we've attended some sessions, like, which was helpful, you know, support groups and things. And, you know, you can keep replaying it and you try to make sense of this and look for the signs and you feel guilty, but like you will never be able to make sense of it because you can't understand what they were going through.
Like you said, you can't
make sense of something that makes no sense. Yeah. You know, it's just you look for answers, but you're probably never going to know. You're not going to find him.
So you said to go, and so you were working with him that spring 3 years ago?
Actually, after my dad passed away, I was there. I did end up getting some knee surgeries and having some issues. So that last season, I was always the hauler, right, of the grain in the fall. I was always loading the bin and everything. And in the spring, I would help till, but I was terrible, and he hated the way I did it. So I just became the one running for parts and checking in and bringing him meals and stuff like that. So yeah, I was still, and I was taking care of the grounds at the farm. So I was there enough, and the rent, taking care of the rental house and whatever people needed. So I was around. I lived right down the road.
So yeah, the day
Yeah.
you had not heard from him. There was
So
not.
we knew something, like we were worried because then we were hearing, right, like from, like someone at church who was like on the farm bureau with him. He's like, oh, Tim didn't make the meeting, and he didn't call to say he wouldn't be there, which is very unlike him. So we kind of knew he was stressed. He was upset about something. So we're like, hey, why don't we all go to lunch? So we would, I sent him a text that morning and said, let's get together. And we knew we wanted to talk to him. And we were like, we don't care what it is that's worrying you. We love you. Let's talk it out. You don't have to farm, whatever it is. But in hindsight, I realized it was, I sent that text and I said, let's go to lunch. And we're pretty sure it was right after that. Yeah. Took his life. Yeah.
And the scary thing was I wasn't going to be able to make it because I was supposed to be at a wedding. And I don't know, God, I got to go. Something big is, I don't know. He's not right. I need to be there. I wasn't going to go that day.
And that was a Thursday morning, and we were like texting to go on Saturday, and we'd be calling and texting, and he still wasn't writing back, which was worrisome.
Yeah.
But it was also, well, we know this is that time of year, and
I thought he was like, yup or something. It was like a single word. It was just like, yup.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
let's do this. Let's meet for lunch. And, I had texted over the weekend, like, hey, we'll come out by you, and just to verify the plans. And so thank God she did come with me, and we went out that day, and you were on edge already because we knew we were going to have a talk. Something was not quite right.
Yeah.
So we get to his house, and we're like, oh, his truck is in the driveway. This is not a good sign, because we're like, maybe he's at the office. Maybe he's doing something.
Well, we were texting him the whole way there, and we weren't getting responses too.
Yeah.
So we were worried.
And then I happened to find I had his garage code, and we opened the garage door, and his car is here.
So you want me to
go ahead? Yeah.
So we walked in the house. He had a 2-story. Called out to him.
The full name, because you know when your little brother's in drinking food, the full first name, middle, last name, like where.
And he wasn't anywhere downstairs, and I was like, I'm gonna go upstairs, and you're like,
and I was hesitant to even go in. I was just nervous, and it just didn't feel right, and she's the responsible older sister who's like, well, I got to protect everyone and take care of them. And
so I went up the stairs. I was calling him out, and I was just kind of scared to turn that corner at the top of the stairs. I looked into his bedroom on the angle, and I didn't even see him right there in the other room. Then I saw his boots. And I think I said something like, oh my God. And I said, Jill, don't come up here. And then I remembered I ran to him.
Jill, don't come up.
I thought maybe the reality of it. And then I ran away, and I thought, oh my God, well, if he's still alive, what if I can help him down? And then I went back and I realized he was gone. And so I remember us clinging each other on the front stoop, and I told her.
Ran out of the house because I don't know why, but it just made sense to me to try to get away from it. I just remember yelling, no, 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 and running outside the house. Calling 911. And yeah, you're like, you can't even begin to fathom because it makes no sense.
I couldn't get that image out of my head for a long, long time, and I didn't want that to be the way I thought about my brother. But it was it was not something I want anybody to ever go through.
And ironically, later on, we found a handwritten note he left on the kitchen table saying, probably best if you don't go upstairs.
Call the police.
Call the police.
Yeah, we didn't even see it.
So he was trying to protect us from.
And I don't want to be dramatic. I mean,
This isn't his power. This is,
no. The only thing I thought of was my beautiful brother with his noose around his neck, and I wanted so badly to get him down, and I wasn't strong enough, and I felt so ashamed that I didn't get him down. I just kept thinking, my beautiful brother, what is this? This isn't right. I couldn't believe it.
and I have to thank you for sparing me from that visual, because I don't think I could have handled that. And for me, for a long time, like, I was afraid to go back in the house. You know, you have to go back, and you have to.
We had to sell the house. Yeah.
And I don't know how people, I mean, like, if these incidents happen at the farm, how do you deal with that reminder living there every day? Because, I mean, I didn't even see it, and yet I had nightmares. I would wake up for weeks and just in my own head thinking what it was. And the only way I finally got past that was, instead of thinking, like, of the bad visual, I just thought, okay, in that moment, he was going to heaven, because I do believe, you know, he believed in God, and that's how we were raised. And I just had to picture him, you know, with our parents there and God, and just welcoming him in and knowing he wasn't in pain anymore.
Well, and I think, you know, talking to your pastor, I mean, we were raised Lutheran. You know what the stigma is with that? Like, it's a sin to take your life. So you're dealing with that, your guilt, your fears, your belief system, you know, like, he was wonderful.
Yeah, we were very
and I do believe that he is with our parents in heaven. I do, because he was sick.
Right.
He was tired. He needed help.
Right. And if someone, like I'm going through cancer right now, you know, and it's like, when you watch, like, we watched our dad, and he was in pain, and he wasn't doing well with the cancer. So it was that sort of relief that they're in a better place. And people don't, you know, with mental health, it, you know, that it shouldn't be the answer. You have to kind of think, okay, well, at least they're at peace now. But, you know, it's something that could have been helped, could have been cured.
Yeah.
Yep. So the conversations, the funeral, all of that, and then knowing that you had other big decisions to make.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Well, you're a get it done kind of person.
Well,
I'm not. I'm the one who kind of can't deal with things, and
that's why he made me the executive.
Yeah.
We were very much alike, Tim and I, in the way we worked. We were 8 years apart, but those years that we worked on the farm together, we got extra close. We just had the same mindset, I guess. I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but we're like, Tim would not want money to go to the government, so I am getting this done as fast as I can.
He was very frugal and efficient.
I was like, I'm going to do it the way he would do it. So I just tackled it. We had to get his house cleaned out. I had to price equipment to sell. Luckily, you know, in the farming community, everybody's supportive of each other. We had ground that needed to be worked and planted. It was getting late. So we had some friends that I asked if they would do it. You know, you do it, you get it done. I had grain to sell. I had to get it out of the bins. We had grain in storage. So all of a sudden, all these things, I'm like, well, you're going to have to figure this out and do it. So we did. And had everything, you know, and I didn't want to seem insensitive. That was my way of dealing with grief. I work through pain. That's what I do. I stay busy. So
And I tend to pull back. And
so, you know, I just got it all done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then selling the farm.
yeah,
That took a while before we even broached that subject.
It was too soon. You were too emotionally raw. We had to, I mean, I think we gave it a year.
Yeah, we did.
We knew we at least had someone that was renting the land, and we outsourced taking care of like all the grass cutting. And
No, I was still doing that there. Yeah. Well, until the mower blew up.
that was the sign from God.
And I said, God does not want me to do this anymore. So I went to the landscape company and we took care of that. Yes. Because I was like, that's it. No more. I can't take anymore. So yeah, I mean, it didn't literally blow up.
No.
Yes. Anyhow. Yes.
And I think that was, we just knew we weren't changing careers and going to.
Oh, yeah. No. Silly to even think. I wouldn't have had a clue.
But it was also really hard because that was like the last goodbye.
Yeah.
And you said he was the only
heir. So out of a family, this is the 5th generation and there had been 6 siblings. He was the only boy and the only one to carry on the Stuenkel name.
Right. And Dad was the only one that stayed at the farm. The rest of the kids, went and did their thing.
I understand. I did that too. I went off.
So, right. So it was us, So, yeah.
And we're like, well, we're not going to be successful farmers, that's for sure. I mean, it was sort of, and right. Like you said, there's, 10 buildings and 2 houses and there's big property taxes.
But another thing to grieve.
Yeah. Oh, big time.
Huge. We lost. I mean, to me, it hadn't seemed that long. Dad and then Tim, and now we have to say goodbye to the farm, which we always said was our, 6th family member. I mean,
well, right,
we love the farm so much.
Every path through the field and the creek and every tree, and we had a big rock that we named the Stuenkel Rock where we would stand. And
that's at my house now. I paid to move it to my house. It's like over, 5,000 pounds. I didn't care, and it will go with me everywhere I go. So, well, not to the store.
And for our but for our children too, it was like, okay, this was the end.
And it was hard for them, yeah, because we had lived there for 3 years in the house next door. So, yeah, it was very hard for everybody. It's not something you just walk away from lightly.
I will say we were very blessed with the outcome. It ended up being purchased by a conservation fund that wanted to keep it in farming because we were worried, like, it would break our heart if it had gone to, some Amazon warehouse or development. It was more important, I think, to us that it, in good hands and someone loved it. And so there are farmers there now, first generation, that are, and it's been put into, I can't think of the term, but so it'll always stay farmland.
Yeah. It's protected, yeah.
So that made it easier.
That was huge. Like, somebody could have offered us 3 times the money. We wouldn't have taken it because we wanted it to stay a farm.
Right. It was your last family member.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So you started at the beginning talking about what you've learned really since your brother has passed, and what have you guys learned, and what do you share with others on, what you guys have learned?
Yeah. I mean, well, there's the people who are dealing with mental health, and I would say, like, I talked to someone. Well, you would mention too, like, the, calling
the hotline. Yeah.
Farm Family Resource Initiative.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because, sometimes, like I said, you don't want to be a burden to your family, and there's a stigma, right? With, I can't handle this. Well, I can handle this.
I don't want to worry.
You don't want to worry them.
So I'm like, you got your cell phone, you're in the tractor, the combine, you pull over and you call that number and just talk to someone.
Yeah.
Even if you don't, maybe you're not thinking about suicide, but maybe you're depressed.
Stressed.
Maybe you're just stressed.
Yeah.
Talk it out, man.
Yeah.
There are people who are willing to help.
Yeah.
Just try to get through it.
And as people who, and that's the hard thing, you have to be able to see it and you have to know. And Tim hit it very well. He was, the joker, the guy always making people laugh. We would talk with him on the phone. How are you doing? We'd be worried, and he would just kind of brush it off. He wouldn't say a whole lot. I would say, as a person dealing with somebody, I will never be as passive again. If I'm worried about somebody, I will confront them. I will go to them and I will say, I love you. I'm worried about you. You may think I'm wacky and over the top. I don't care because I can't have anybody else do this. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be afraid. Don't hold back. Just go and talk to them in person. Hug them. Tell them you love them and you need them. And I want you to get help because you are sick. It's sickness. and they do think you need help. You know, whatever that looks like, I want to help you get to that point, you know? So, yeah.
And I do think for families that have lost loved ones to suicide is you also have to learn to forgive yourself and stop blaming yourself, because you can't control what someone else does. You can't be with them 24/7. You know, and it's such a horrible thing. If anything we can do to avoid it, yeah. But if you have already been through it, you know, get help for yourself too. Talk to people.
And I think too, we also discussed, like, I used to describe my brother as a machine because he could just work. Nobody should ever be described as a machine. No job of any sort or type is that important that you become a machine. You have to, and I know it's hard. Like I said, you got to go. It's farming, the weather, everything like that. You have to take care of yourself. You can't run on an empty cup. You just can't. So whatever that looks like, whatever little thing you can do for yourself, I mean, because, yeah, mental health is very important.
I'm looking up the Farm Family Resource Initiative number, and we'll give that 800 number out here at the close. But how do you want us to remember your brother?
I mean, I think he was just the person you wanted to be around, you know? Just being with him just made you happy. You know, and I think traditionally we would have always said, oh, yeah, he's hardworking, he's smart, and he is all those things. But he was just genuinely fun and a joy to be with.
He was our favorite person.
He was.
Yeah, he was.
I love you too, but he was like,
yeah.
You know.
We're like, you're funny, but you're not that funny.
No, right,
yeah.
Right. He was kind of just the best of everything. I mean, he was this blue collar, white collar, and he just, like, he listened to people.
Yeah, he truly liked meeting people. He enjoyed traveling abroad in all the different countries. He and it's going to sound weird to say this, but he loved life.
Right, he did.
Yeah, which is ironic, no, but he did. And he loved hard for the people in his life. He was always there for you, you know. And that's why it's been really hard, like you said, to forgive yourself. That's a very hard thing. But yeah.
Anything we didn't touch on that you guys want to share?
No, I mean, I don't know how you wrap up. Yeah, as someone who so much data. And I will say when Tim was, well, let's see, that would have been 9 years before he passed. Like, so Tim was Mr. I'm going to do it myself and save money. So when he went to go trim a tree, he's on this ladder like 18 feet in the air with a chainsaw, and the ladder falls.
The branch swung around weird, knocked him off the ladder. My son was there.
Tim throws the chainsaw so he doesn't hit anyone. He wants it to go away from our dad was there. Her youngest son was there, you know, and it was my daughter's second birthday. So I'm getting a phone call from my dad, like, oh, Grandpa's calling, you know, maybe he's running late or something for the party. And he's like, your brother had an accident. He's in an ambulance. Yeah. We could have lost Tim that day. Yeah. I mean, he ended up having to have pins put in his leg and surgery and all sorts. And he was in a wheelchair for a couple months.
His arm was just dislocated. It was like a gooseneck. It was still out of...
I mean, and he was, you know, knocked unconscious. And so I was like, well, God didn't take him then. He gave us more years with him. But... don't think you have to do everything yourself, whether it's cutting a tree or farming.
Yeah, things can wait. You don't always have to be. I think that's one thing I've learned, because I'm always very perfectionist and go, and no, work first, play second. You don't play until your work's done. I've learned to play a little more. I've learned to relax, let it go. It's not that important. Yeah. You know what? You're only here for a short time. Mm-hmm. So you have to have balance. Yeah.
Right. Guys, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
You could feel the love for your brother, and thank you for sharing the story. The 800 number we talked about, the Farm Family Resource Initiative Helpline. It's 833-FARM-SOS, 833-FARM-SOS. It's manned 24/7 available. That's 833-327-6767. Joe Riemann, Julie Michaels, the Stuenkel Sisters. thank you again for being a part of Taking Stock at Illinois Farm Bureau.
Thank you.